At 6, the Prime Minister tells MPs intense discussions continue to stop the fighting in Ukraine, but US support is key.
The US is vital in securing the peace we all want to see in Ukraine.
But as he was speaking, Donald Trump again criticised Ukraine's president, saying he doesn't want peace and America won't put up with it for much longer.
President Zelensky said he believes that American aid will keep flowing to Ukraine, but Donald Trump responded, that's the very worst statement he could have made.
The Prime Minister has told MPs that the UK must strengthen our relationship with America if there's to be a lasting peace in Ukraine. Updating the House of Commons after a weekend spent trying to heal the rift between the White House and President Zelensky and creating a ceasefire plan, Sir Keir Starmer said this was the test of our times. But he also insisted that President Trump's commitment to peace in Ukraine is sincere. The Prime Minister said ending the war is vital and Britain will lead the way in trying to secure it. With the latest, here's our political correspondent, Harry Horton.
Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
It all seemed to be going so well.
You're gambling with World War III.
But after Friday's Oval Office bust-up, Keir Starmer was left to patch things up, and Europe came up with its own plan to defend Ukraine.
We are at a crossroads in history today.
If Europe can come up with a peace deal, Britain, France and others will have to defend it. And the Prime Minister told MPs he needs to move quickly.
Britain will play a leading role, with, if necessary, and together with others, boots on the ground and planes in the air. But to succeed, this effort must also have strong US backing. We have to lead from the front, and therefore we need a coalition of the willing, because otherwise we will move at the speed of the most reluctant, and that will be too slow.
The Prime Minister was backed by MPs from all sides.
Whilst I often take great delight in criticism of the government, I think this weekend he has not really put a foot wrong.
But some of his own MPs were worried about how to pay for more defence spending.
Is he not concerned that cutting the international aid budget risks both increasing global instability and undermining support for Ukraine, both here at home and internationally?
Getting both Europe and America to back a peace plan is the next challenge. European leaders agreed on the need to increase defence spending in London yesterday. They've now returned home to come up with a plan of how to do it. And will give more details at an EU leaders meeting in Brussels on Thursday. While the UK Defence Secretary will fly to Washington this week to push for US security guarantees to any Ukrainian peace deal. Last night, President Zelensky stressed there was still much work to do. An agreement to end the war is still very, very far away, he said, and no one has started all these steps yet. Today, President Trump said that was the worst statement he could have made. America will not put up with it for much longer, he warned. The government wants to play a leading role in defending Ukraine, but getting Europe, the US, Russia and Ukraine to all agree will not be easy. Harry Horton, ITV News.
OK, so what could this coalition look like without US support, and how could it work on the ground? Well, our political correspondent Carl Dinnan is here with the details. Carl.
Well, Charlene, as a starting point, let's take a look at how NATO forces stack up against the Russians if you exclude the United States. Without the Americans, NATO has about 2 million regular troops, nearly 1,500 fighter jets and 6,700 or so tanks. Russia has around 1 million regular troops, just over 800 fighter jets, but nearly 15,000 tanks. Now, of course, European equipment like the Challenger tank is much more advanced, But Europe still needs high-tech US support in things like satellite surveillance and missile defence to operate at its very highest level. And of course, not all of NATO sounds as if it's up for Keir Starmer's coalition of the willing. Britain and France are taking the lead. Canada, Spain and Denmark seem in. Sweden, the Netherlands and the Baltic states are all possibles. But there's a big question mark over Germany. And Poland says, although it's up for the idea, its forces are already tied up defending their own borders. Italy, Portugal, Hungary and Slovakia all seem to be leaning towards no. So how might this start? Well, France is proposing a 1-month partial ceasefire in the air, at sea and around Ukraine's energy infrastructure as a way of testing Russia's seriousness. And President Trump has said that if Ukraine gives the US access to its mineral deposits, then the presence of US workers on the ground in Ukraine would deter further Russian aggression. Where the Prime Minister here apparently wants to end up is with a deal that involves Ukrainian troops along a frontier with Russia, wherever that ends up being, backed by peacekeepers from Britain, France and the rest of the coalition of the willing, with their safety supported and guaranteed in turn by the United States. But not only has Washington yet to go for that, Charlene, there is no indication that Moscow will either.
OK, thanks for talking us through that, Carl. Well, our US correspondent Dan Rivers is in Washington for us and joins us now. Dan, we've heard more on Europe's plans, but do we have any more indication of what the US might do next?
Well, there's a lot of speculation about what the US will do next, but here's what we know. We know that Donald Trump is due to speak about now on investment issues. He may stray into territory on Ukraine. He often does take multiple questions at these events in the White House. We also know he's got a meeting this afternoon with some of his key cabinet members on Ukraine, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary, and Mike Waltz, his National Security Advisor, as well as JD Vance, the Vice President, who was involved with that explosive diplomatic moment in the Oval Office on Friday. In terms of what Donald Trump is thinking, well, we've been given a further clue in the last literally couple of minutes, where he's again posted on social media, Truth Social, saying Europe has spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far, in capitals at the end. So I think he's still looking at this from a very sort of transactional point of view, that he feels America has done the lion's share of defence spending, and now it's up to Europe to step up. There's also a lot of speculation that they want a public apology from Volodymyr Zelensky after that bitter argument in the Oval Office on Friday.